Ethan Carter stepped off the shuttle and onto the gleaming landing platform of Zephora's capital city. The air was crisp and carried a faint metallic scent, unlike anything he had smelled on Earth. Towering spires of glass and metal shimmered in the sunlight, reflecting colors he had no names for. Flying vehicles zoomed past above, leaving streaks of light in their wake. He adjusted the strap of his bag, feeling the weight of his armor and weapons. Though he had been trained for countless dangerous missions on Earth, this world was different. Humans were rare on Zephora, often treated like mercenaries or exotic curiosities. And yet today, he was no mere soldier for hire. Today, he was about to become the personal bodyguard to the most important people on the planet. His handler, a short Zephyran official named Kivor, approached, his 4 arms folded in a gesture that Ethan guessed meant authority. "Carter, welcome. You have been assigned to Princess Lyra and Princess Selene. They will arrive shortly. Remember, your duty is not only protection but discretion." Ethan nodded. "Understood." "Good. Follow me." Kivor led him through the palace gates, which opened automatically with a soft hum. Inside, the halls were wide and gleamed like polished crystal. Strange symbols glowed along the walls, pulsing softly with light. Ethan's eyes darted around. Every detail was new, every turn a puzzle. Finally, they reached a private chamber. "The princesses will arrive now," Kivor said, stepping back. And then they appeared. Lyra and Selene were unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. They were twin sisters, identical in form but distinctly different in presence. Their skin shimmered, faintly like liquid silver, and their eyes glowed a soft violet. Lyra's gaze was sharp and curious, always assessing, while Selene's expression carried a gentle warmth, almost as if she was inviting trust. Ethan bowed slightly. "Princesses, I am Ethan Carter. I have been assigned as your protector." The twins observed him silently for a moment. Then Lyra spoke, her voice calm and precise. "You are human. Few of your kind have reached this city." "Yes, Princess," Ethan said. He kept his tone respectful. "I am trained in combat and strategy. My job is to ensure your safety." Selene smiled faintly. "We've heard about humans. Courageous, unpredictable, and resourceful." Ethan's lips twitched in a small, amused smile. "I'll try to live up to that reputation." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly. "We'll see." Kivor cleared his throat. "If there are no questions, I will explain your daily duties." Ethan followed him into a smaller room where holoscreens displayed maps, schedules, and alerts. "Your main task," Kivor explained, "is to ensure the safety of the princesses at all times. They are targets of political factions within the council who wish to destabilize their rule. You must anticipate threats before they appear." Ethan studied the information. Assassinations, kidnapping, sabotage, the list was long. He had faced danger on Earth, but this was on a political scale he had never seen. He swallowed and nodded. "Understood," Kivor continued. "You must also adapt to Zephoran customs. Your human instincts are valuable, but you cannot ignore the ways of this world. Observing, listening, and patience will keep you alive." Ethan clenched his fists slightly. "I am ready." The first few days were a whirlwind. Ethan shadowed the twins through the palace and the city, learning the alien protocols and deciphering their unusual etiquette. The twins were polite, but distant, often speaking in a tone that tested his patience and attention. They moved with grace and confidence, aware of every gaze, every whisper in the corridors. One morning, Ethan accompanied them to a diplomatic gathering. Aliens of all shapes and sizes filled the grand hall, each one representing a powerful faction. He noticed subtle gestures, slight nods, and coded glances. The twins moved through the crowd effortlessly, while Ethan struggled to remain invisible, despite his bulk and human appearance. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the main dais. A figure pushed forward aggressively, moving toward the princesses. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He stepped forward, placing himself between the threat and the twins. "Stay behind me," he barked, his voice calm but firm. The figure froze for a moment, studying him, Then, with surprising speed, the assailant lunged. Ethan reacted instantly, using a combination of human reflexes and martial training. He grabbed the intruder's arm, twisted it, and pushed him off balance. Security droids moved in immediately, restraining the attacker. The twins' eyes widened slightly, not in fear but in recognition. Lyra's sharp gaze softened a fraction. "He acts quickly," she murmured to Celine. "Yes," Celine whispered back, "and with control." After the chaos settled, the twins approached Ethan. Lyra's voice was quieter now. "You are capable." Ethan inclined his head. "I only do my job, Princess." Celine smiled gently. "More than a job, I think. You protect with your mind as much as your hands." For the first time, Ethan felt a small sense of belonging. He was a human, a rarity in this alien world. But here, standing before two of the most important figures in Zephora, he felt respected. That evening, Ethan was granted access to the twins' private quarters, a privilege unheard of for most outsiders. He found the room unlike any palace he had ever entered. Soft glowing lights, lush alien plants, and delicate artwork depicting the history of Zephora. The twins moved freely around the room, discussing their plans and worries in hushed voices. Lyra finally spoke to him directly. "You will not only guard us, Ethan, but you will learn the ways of our people. Observe, adapt, and anticipate. If you fail, we fail." Ethan nodded solemnly. "I understand, Princess." Celine's voice was softer, almost teasing. "And perhaps, in time, you will find a place among us, not just as a protector, but as someone we trust." Ethan felt a flicker of warmth. He had trained his entire life for missions, for survival, for honor. But this was something different. Here, on a distant planet filled with wonder and danger, he was being given a chance to prove that a human could belong, could be trusted, could matter. As he settled into his new quarters that night, Ethan looked out over the city of Zephora. Lights shimmered across the horizon and distant towers glowed like stars. The road ahead would be dangerous, political plots, secret enemies, and threats he could not yet imagine. But for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt ready. He was not just a soldier. He was a human stepping into a world that doubted his kind, and he intended to show them why humans were remarkable. The next morning, Ethan awoke to a soft hum in the palace corridors. The light outside was pale, filtered through the crystal walls of the tower. Today, he knew, would be different. He had passed the first test of strength by stopping an intruder, but the twins were far from finished testing him. Kivor arrived promptly. "Ethan, the princesses have arranged for your first formal trial." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Trial?" Kivor's forearms gestured with precision. "They wish to see how well you can adapt to Zephyran culture and protect them in unusual circumstances. Today you accompany them on an expedition outside the capital. There will be no security teams. You will rely on your skill and judgment, alone." Ethan nodded, feeling the familiar stir of adrenaline. He had faced extreme situations on Earth, but the wilderness of Zephora was another matter entirely. The air was thick with unfamiliar scents. The flora seemed alive in subtle ways, and the sky above shimmered with shifting colors, as if reacting to the life below. The twins arrived, dressed in light exploration attire that allowed for ease of movement. Lyra's eyes scanned the terrain sharply while Celine smiled softly at Ethan. "We will judge not only your strength but your perception," she said. "Zephora is beautiful, but it is also dangerous." As they stepped out of the palace, Ethan could feel the tension of the city giving way to the pulse of nature. Strange plants reached toward them, some glowing faintly, others swaying as if in rhythm with an invisible wind. The ground beneath their feet was soft but firm, dotted with crystalline formations that hummed faintly when touched. They traveled for hours through dense forests and narrow ravines. Ethan noticed creatures peeking from the shadows. Six-legged herbivores with transparent skin, birds with metallic feathers, and insects that pulsed with light. Every step required attention. Every sound could signal danger. Finally, Lyra stopped. "We will camp here tonight. Keep watch." Ethan nodded. Setting up the perimeter, he scanned the surroundings with trained eyes. Every tree, every shadow, was a potential threat. He noted patterns in the movement of wildlife, signs of larger predators and subtle traces of alien tracks. Hours passed. The twins rested while Ethan patrolled the camp. Around midnight, a low rustling reached his ears. He froze, listening. The sound grew louder, accompanied by a faint glow. From the shadows, a group of wild Xiferan predators emerged, tall, sinewy creatures with multiple glowing eyes. Their intent was clear. They were testing the intruders. Ethan acted instantly. Using a combination of human combat skill and improvised traps, he managed to redirect the creatures away from the twins' camp. He didn't kill them. He never needed to. His goal was to protect, not to destroy. When the twins awoke, they saw the perimeter intact, the threats gone, and Ethan standing alert, calm, and ready. Lyra's sharp eyes softened slightly. "You handled that well," she said. Selene smiled. "You were patient. You understood their behavior instead of attacking blindly. That is unusual for humans." The next morning, they continued deeper into the forest. The twins explained the IB's purpose of the expedition. A diplomatic gift had been stolen from a minor council member, and its recovery would prove their competence and fairness. The path was fraught with natural obstacles, crystal cliffs, sudden drops, and a river with unpredictable currents. Ethan guided them carefully, using ropes and improvised bridges. He calculated the safest paths, anticipated sudden dangers, and ensured the twins never risked injury. Slowly, they began to rely on him not just for protection, but for guidance. By midday, they reached the site of the theft, a hollowed-out cave guarded by sentient alien creatures who regarded intruders with suspicion. Lyra signaled Ethan to wait. They attempted negotiation first, speaking in the careful, melodic language of Zephora. The creatures were unyielding. Ethan observed silently, noting patterns in their speech and body language. When subtle signs of aggression emerged, he stepped forward, not as a brute force but as a mediator. Using simple gestures and logic, he showed the creatures that harming the twins would not benefit them. Slowly, the creatures relented, returning the stolen gift. Lyra and Selene exchanged impressed glances. "Your patience and observation made the difference," Lyra said quietly. Selene nodded. "Humans are often underestimated. We see now that there is value beyond physical strength." The day continued with more challenges. Ethan led the twins across treacherous terrain, avoiding natural hazards and potential predators. Each time, he combined instinct with careful planning, adapting his human methods to an alien environment. With each success, the twins' trust grew. They began to share small stories of their childhoods, their fears, and the pressures of their royal duties. One evening, as they rested beside a luminescent river, Selene turned to him. "Ethan, do you ever fear that humans are limited?" Ethan thought for a moment. "We are limited, yes. But we compensate with creativity, adaptability, and determination. Sometimes what we lack in biology we make up for in ingenuity." Lyra studied him silently, then nodded slightly. "Perhaps that is why you survive where others fail." The twins' bond with Ethan strengthened further during a sudden sandstorm that swept across the plain. Visibility dropped to nearly zero, and alien lightning crackled across the sky. Ethan quickly assessed the environment and guided them to a natural cavern, shielding them from the storm. Inside, the twins huddled together, and Ethan stayed alert, scanning for secondary threats. After the storm passed, Lyra spoke with quiet respect. "You do not panic, that is rare. You think clearly even under pressure. That is why we are beginning to trust you." Ethan felt a flicker of pride. On Earth, he had been a soldier, respected for skill, but never truly trusted by those outside. His unit. Here, on an alien world, he was becoming more than a protector. He was a trusted presence, someone who could influence outcomes and earn respect in a society that initially doubted humans. Their expedition concluded successfully. The twins returned the recovered gift, earning gratitude from the minor council member and recognition for their diplomatic skill. Ethan's role in the success did not go unnoticed. Kivor, who had shadowed them discreetly, gave a subtle nod of approval. That night, back in the palace, Ethan was summoned to the twins' private quarters. Lyra and Celine were waiting, relaxed but watchful. "You have passed today's trials, Ethan," Lyra said. "Not through brute force, but through observation, strategy, and patience," Celine smiled. "You are beginning to understand our world, and more importantly, you are proving that humans can rise above expectations." Ethan felt the weight of their words. It was more than praise, it was acceptance. In a world that had questioned his abilities simply because he was human, he was finding a place where his skill, courage, and intelligence mattered. Lyra leaned forward, her voice softer than usual. "Tomorrow the real test begins. You will face threats that are not just natural, but political. You will see why the Council fears for our safety. You must be ready." Ethan nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "I will be ready." Celine's eyes sparkled. "We believe in you, Ethan, and that is no small thing for us." As he left their quarters that night, Ethan felt a sense of purpose stronger than any he had felt on Earth. The wilderness had tested his strength, patience, and ingenuity. He had proven himself to the twins, and in doing so he had begun to earn his place in their inner circle. But the world outside the palace, and the world within it, was only growing more dangerous. Political intrigues, secret enemies, and plots that reached the highest levels of Zephora awaited. Ethan understood one thing clearly. The path ahead would not be easy. But he was no ordinary human. He was a human who could think, adapt, and act where others might fail. And in this alien world, that was more valuable than any weapon. As he settled into his quarters, Ethan stared out at the city below. Lights shimmered across the crystal towers, the hum of life echoing in the distance. He had survived the first trials, earned the trust of the twins, and begun to understand that humans were capable of much more than the aliens imagined. Tomorrow, the real challenges would begin. But for now, Ethan Carter allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. He was no longer just a human stranger in a strange world. He was part of something larger, something important. And he would prove again and again that humanity could rise above expectations, even among the stars. The palace was quieter than usual when Ethan arrived for morning briefing. The halls, usually humming with diplomats and palace staff, felt tense, almost oppressive. Kivor met him in a side corridor. "Ethan, Princess Lyra, and Princess Celine wish to speak with you privately. Something urgent has arisen." Ethan nodded and followed him to the twins' private chambers. The doors opened silently, revealing the sisters seated on low, elegant platforms. Their expressions were grave, eyes sharp with worry. "You have done well so far, Ethan," Lyra began. "Your skills and judgment in the field have impressed us. But today you face a different type of danger, one that cannot be met with reflexes, alone." Celine's voice was calm, but firm. "There are forces within the Council that plot against us. They seek to remove us from power, to seize control of Zephora's advanced technology. They are subtle, patient, and dangerous. We need someone we can trust implicitly." Ethan absorbed their words. On Earth, he had fought enemies who were overt, whose motives were clear. But politics, especially alien politics, was a far more dangerous battlefield. A single misstep could cost lives. Not just his own, but the lives of the twins. Lyra continued, "We will not face them openly. Their allies are everywhere. Some of our trusted council members may be involved. We must act carefully or risk exposure." Celine leaned forward, her eyes searching his. "That is why we want you with us, Ethan. Not just as a bodyguard, but as a confidant and strategist. Can we trust you to think, act, and protect beyond mere combat?" Ethan straightened. "Yes, Princess," I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe and see your rule protected. Lyra gave a small nod. Very well. Your first task is to uncover information about the faction plotting against us. They operate in shadows, and discretion is critical. You must observe, question, and deduce without drawing attention. Over the next several days, Ethan immersed himself in palace life. He attended council meetings, watched diplomats interact, and quietly noted subtle gestures and coded language. He realized that Zephyrin society was built on layers of unspoken communication, a network of alliances, rivalries, and favors. Humans might underestimate such complexity, but Ethan had a gift for reading people. One evening, as he walked through the palace gardens, he encountered a minor council member, Ralvan, who had seemed overly friendly to the twins. Ethan noticed small inconsistencies, a glance that lingered too long toward the twins, hesitation in speech, a hand brushing against a concealed pocket. Ethan decided to test Ralvan subtly. He approached the council member, engaging in casual conversation about Zephyrin history. As they spoke, Ethan observed every micro-expression and tone shift. Later, when Ralvan was not looking, Ethan discovered a small data chip tucked into a flowering plant. It was encoded with messages about the faction's planned moves, a coup disguised as a political negotiation. That evening, Ethan presented his findings to the twins. Lyra's eyes widened as she read the data. You discovered this without even confronting him? Impressive. Seleni's smile was warmer than usual. Your human intuition and careful observation give you an edge. We did not expect. Lyra leaned back thoughtful. This changes everything. We can now anticipate their moves, but we must act carefully. One wrong step, and the faction will strike. Ethan nodded. I suggest we gather a few trusted allies and create a plan. We must move quietly, observe the traitors, and then act when the time is right. Celine's eyes sparkled. I agree, and we trust you to lead this effort with discretion. The following days were tense. Ethan coordinated with select palace staff and minor council members who had proven their loyalty. He arranged discreet meetings, mapped potential threats, and devised contingency plans. His human perspective, direct, logical, and inventive, added a dimension the twins had not anticipated. During one late-night meeting, Lyra and Selene shared more personal details with him, further strengthening their bond. Lyra spoke of the burden of leadership, the fear of betrayal, and the loneliness that came with being a princess in a world where trust was scarce. Selene shared memories of their childhood, of laughter, learning, and moments of joy now overshadowed by political threats. Ethan listened, offering advice and perspective. Leadership isn't just about making decisions, he said. It's about understanding people, friends and foes alike. You can't control everyone, but you can anticipate, adapt, and respond. That is where your strength lies. Lyra nodded, slowly. You speak with clarity, Ethan. More than just observation, you understand the essence of what we face. Selene smiled. And that is why we believe you are more than a bodyguard. You are part of our inner circle, whether you realize it or not. The next challenge came sooner than expected. One morning, an anonymous tip warned of a meeting arranged by the faction. Ethan, Lyra, and Selene prepared carefully, moving through hidden corridors to avoid detection. They observed the meeting from a concealed vantage point. A group of council members, including Ralvan, were present, discussing plans to manipulate public opinion and create chaos that would justify the twins' removal. Ethan took careful notes, committing faces, gestures, and words to memory. He realized that a direct confrontation would be disastrous. They needed evidence, strategy, and timing. When the meeting ended, Ethan guided the twins back to safety. Lyra's voice was low but approving. You have eyes where we cannot. Your presence is invaluable, Selene added, and your judgment prevents rash action. That is rare among humans and aliens alike. Over the following weeks, the trio worked in silence, gradually gathering intelligence and preparing contingencies. Ethan's human problem-solving, combined with the twins' knowledge of Zephyrin culture and politics, created a formidable team. They anticipated threats, redirected potential crises, and slowly began to corner the faction without revealing their hand. Ethan also began to learn subtle lessons about Zyphora. He discovered that honor and loyalty were intertwined with personal risk. Decisions were not just strategic, they were moral. Protecting the twins sometimes required navigating ethical dilemmas, balancing the greater good against immediate safety. Ethan adapted, applying his own human code of honor while respecting the alien culture around him. One evening, Celine approached him privately. "Ethan, do you ever doubt yourself? That perhaps humans are limited in ways we cannot see?" Ethan shook his head. "We all have limits, but what matters is how we overcome them. Humans survive because we adapt, we learn, and we refuse to give up. That is why we endure, and why we can rise above expectations." Celine smiled softly. "You have proven that already. We see it, and it gives us hope." As Part 3 drew to a close, Ethan realized that his role had shifted dramatically. He was no longer just a protector. He was an advisor, a strategist, and a trusted confidant. The twins had embraced him as part of their inner circle, and in doing so, he had become a bridge between humanity and Zyphora, showing that courage, intelligence, and honor could transcend species. But the stakes were higher than ever. The faction was clever, patient, and dangerous. Political betrayal could strike anywhere at any time. Ethan knew that the coming days would test not only his skill, but the trust he had built with the twins. As he gazed out over the city from the palace balcony, lights shimmering like stars across the crystal towers, Ethan felt a renewed determination. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, often dismissed as impulsive or weak. Yet here, in a world filled with intrigue and danger, he had proven that humanity could shine through. The palace was unusually quiet as Ethan prepared for the mission. He packed essential tools, light weapons, and a compact data recorder that could hack into the faction's communication channels. Today, he was not just a protector. Today, he was part of a plan that could decide the fate of the twins and possibly all of Zyphora. Lyra and Celine met him in their private chamber. Both were dressed in sleek tactical attire designed for stealth and movement. Their expressions were serious, yet confident. "Ethan," Lyra began, her sharp gaze meeting his, "this mission will test all of us. We must infiltrate the faction's stronghold, gather evidence, and if necessary, neutralize immediate threats. Discretion is critical. One wrong step, and the faction could strike back with deadly force." Celine added softly, "We trust you to make quick decisions. Your judgment is essential." Ethan nodded. "I understand. I won't let you down." The trio left the palace under the cover of night. They moved through hidden corridors and narrow tunnels that led out of the city's core. The streets above were mostly empty, lit only by soft glows from floating lanterns and distant spires. The twins moved with practiced grace, and Ethan mirrored their movements, ensuring he remained close but unobtrusive. Their destination was a fortified compound hidden deep in the outskirts of the city. The faction had chosen an abandoned research facility as their base, surrounded by natural barriers and advanced security systems. Ethan studied the perimeter carefully, noting patrol patterns and sensor placements. "We need to move silently," Ethan whispered. "Avoid the sensors and guards. Once inside, I can extract their communication data and we'll see their plans in full." Lyra and Celine nodded. Together, they navigated a series of jagged cliffs and narrow ledges, avoiding security drones with careful timing and improvised distractions. Ethan's human ingenuity proved invaluable. He rigged small sound diversions using rocks and reflective surfaces, allowing the twins to move undetected. Inside the facility, the air was cool and stale, and the faint hum of energy systems echoed through the hallways. Ethan signaled for caution as they advanced. The facility was a labyrinth of corridors, research rooms, and observation decks. Guards patrolled in predictable patterns, giving them openings to slip by. Ethan paused near a security terminal. Using the portable data recorder, he tapped into the system. Lights flickered, and digital locks clicked open. He accessed encrypted messages detailing the faction's plan, a coordinated public attack on the palace during a ceremonial gathering. The faction intended to seize control by creating chaos and fear. Lyra's eyes widened. They plan to strike during the council. Gathering tomorrow? That is bold and reckless. Celine's voice was calm but determined. Then we must be ready. We cannot allow them to succeed. As they moved deeper into the compound, Ethan spotted a hidden room guarded by 2 heavily armed soldiers. He whispered, "Leave this to me." With a combination of distraction, swift movements, and close-quarters combat, Ethan incapacitated the guards without lethal force. The twins watched, impressed but unshaken. He had learned to adapt his Earth-based combat skills to the Zephyran environment, using precision, timing, and strategy rather than brute strength. Inside the guarded room, they found additional evidence: blueprints of palace defenses, detailed lists of loyal council members, and communication logs between faction leaders. Ethan quickly copied the files to his recorder. As they prepared to leave, an alarm suddenly blared. Someone had noticed a breach. Red lights flashed, and mechanical sirens echoed through the halls. "We've been discovered," Ethan said, his voice calm but urgent. "Move quickly. Follow my lead." They raced through corridors, evading guards and automated security systems. Ethan used every bit of his training, sliding under laser beams, tossing small objects to trigger distractions, and guiding the twins through hidden maintenance shafts. At one point, a group of guards blocked their path. Ethan assessed the situation and whispered, "We need to split up. I'll take the left corridor, you two take the right. Regroup at the extraction point." Lyra hesitated. "Are you sure?" Ethan gave a firm nod. "Trust me." The twins moved as directed, and Ethan engaged, the guards with precise, controlled strikes, incapacitating them without serious injury. His human instincts for improvisation and quick decision-making gave him an advantage against the Zephyran-trained soldiers, who relied heavily on protocol. Once reunited at the extraction point, they raced to the edge of the facility. Ethan quickly rigged a small diversion using energy canisters, creating a controlled explosion that covered their escape. The facility erupted in chaos behind them, alarms ringing and lights flashing, but the trio slipped away into the surrounding wilderness. Back at the palace, the twins reviewed the data Ethan had collected. The evidence was irrefutable. The faction planned to attack the council gathering and intended to eliminate any loyalists who opposed them. The twins' expressions were resolute. Lyra's gaze met Ethan's. "You did more than protect us tonight. You gave us the information we needed to act. You have earned a place in our circle of trust." Celine smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Not many outsiders would have done what you did. Humans are underestimated. But tonight you proved that courage, ingenuity, and loyalty are not limited by species." Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had faced danger, adapted to alien methods, and succeeded in a mission that required more than physical skill. It required intellect, courage, and decisiveness. Over the next hours, they worked together to devise a counter-strategy. The twins would address the council publicly, while Ethan and select allies positioned themselves strategically to intercept any attack. They trained for the scenario, simulating various outcomes and ensuring every move was calculated. The tension in the palace was palpable. Everyone sensed that something was coming, but only the twins and Ethan knew the full plan. The city outside remained oblivious, the glittering lights of Zephora's towers masking the danger that loomed in the shadows. That night, Ethan stood watch outside the twins' quarters. He reflected on the journey so far, how a human, so far, from Earth, had navigated alien politics, wild landscapes, and deadly threats to become an indispensable part of a royal inner circle. He thought about the trials they had faced, the wilderness expedition, the political espionage, and now the infiltration of a fortified enemy base. Each challenge had tested not only his skill but his judgment, adaptability, and courage. And each time he had succeeded, proving that humans were more than the aliens believed. The sun began to rise over the city, casting pale light across the crystal towers. Ethan knew that the real challenge was yet to come, the confrontation with the faction during the council gathering. Lives would be at stake, and the decisions made in the next hours could determine the future of Zephora and its rulers. But for the first time, Ethan did not feel fear. He felt preparation, focus, and determination. He was not just a protector, he was a strategist, a trusted ally, and a part of the inner circle. And in a universe that underestimated humanity, he had proven that courage, intelligence, and loyalty could transcend any boundary. As he adjusted his gear and prepared for the next day, Ethan Carter made a silent vow. No matter the danger, no matter the enemy, he would protect the twins and the realm with every skill he possessed. Tomorrow, the true test would come. The faction would strike. But Ethan and the twins were ready. And when the dust settled, they would prove that humanity, even far from Earth, was capable of extraordinary feats. The city of Zephora sparkled in the dawn light, the crystal towers gleaming like beacons of peace. Yet beneath the beauty, tension thrummed through the palace. The council gathering was about to begin, and the twins knew the faction would strike. Ethan adjusted his armor and checked his weapons. Every tool, every device had been inspected, prepared for maximum efficiency. He had memorized patrol routes, studied council member behaviors, and anticipated the faction's moves. This was the culmination of weeks of strategy, observation, and careful planning. Lyra approached him, her violet eyes sharp and unwavering. "Ethan, the time has come. You know what is at stake." "I know," Ethan replied, calm and steady. "We are ready." Celine joined them, her expression calm but determined. "Remember, we act as one. Trust each other and stay focused." The council chamber was filled with dignitaries, advisors, and curious observers. The twins entered, radiating grace and authority. Ethan stayed close, alert, eyes scanning every corner. To the casual observer, he appeared as just another bodyguard, but he was far more than that. He was the human who had learned to navigate alien strategy, predict threats, and adapt in ways no one expected. As the ceremony proceeded, the faction made its move. Guards stationed near exits suddenly shifted positions, subtle signals of the planned chaos. Ethan noticed immediately. He whispered to Lyra and Celine, "Prepare for diversion, stay calm, and follow my lead." Then, in a sudden burst, alarms sounded. Faction members attempted to storm the chamber, aiming to seize control and isolate the twins. Panic threatened to spread among the council members, but Ethan acted instantly. He positioned himself between the nearest attackers and the twins. Using a combination of martial skill, human ingenuity, and precise timing, he disabled several assailants, disarming them without lethal force. The twins moved with practiced coordination, signaling loyalists and directing defenses. Lyra used her authority to issue commands, guiding the palace security to key positions. Celine remained calm, providing reassurance and direction to those in fear. And through it all, Ethan anticipated the attackers' moves, creating barriers, distractions, and escape paths. His human reflexes and strategic mind allowed him to predict actions before they happened. One group of faction members attempted to access the central communication hub, planning to broadcast false commands to turn the city against the twins. Ethan reacted in a split second. He intercepted them using a combination of agility and strategy to trap them in a small chamber. The faction members struggled, surprised by the unexpected tactics of a human. Lyra's eyes met Ethan's briefly. "You've done well," she said, her voice carrying a rare hint of admiration. Celine added, "You are more than we imagined. You are extraordinary." The twins' loyal council members, guided by Ethan's quick commands, secured the remaining intruders. Within minutes, the chaos was contained. The faction had underestimated the human and the unity of the twins' inner circle. Ethan led the final confrontation with Ralvin, the mastermind behind the coup. Ralvin was skilled, but he relied heavily on protocol and expectation. Ethan adapted, rapidly countering his moves with improvisation and intuition. Within moments, Ralvin was restrained, his plans exposed to the council. Lyra stepped forward, addressing the assembly. The faction sought to create fear and seize control. Thanks to our vigilance and the courage of those who stand with us, their plan has failed. She paused, her gaze landing on Ethan. Especially one individual who has proven that humans are capable of courage, wisdom, and loyalty beyond what we expected. The chamber erupted in murmurs of respect. Humans were rare, and few had ever earned recognition at such a level. Ethan stood modestly, allowing the attention to pass to the twins who had led with grace and authority. Later, in the private chambers, the twins spoke to him quietly. Lyra's tone was sincere, almost warm. Ethan, you have proven yourself not only as a protector, but as a trusted ally and advisor. You have earned a place in our inner circle. Celine smiled softly. Your courage, intellect, and loyalty have saved lives and prevented disaster. We trust you implicitly. Ethan felt a surge of pride, but also humility. I only did what I had to do. You two gave me the opportunity to help. It is an honor to stand with you. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. You are more than a human outsider. You are part of Zyphora now. You belong here, in ways few outsiders ever could. Celine added, and you have shown that humanity, though underestimated, is capable of extraordinary things. Your actions remind us that courage and ingenuity are not limited by species. The following days were filled with recovery and recognition. The faction members were held accountable, their plots dismantled, and loyalists reinforced throughout the council. Ethan's role was acknowledged discreetly but firmly. He had become a symbol of trust, courage, and collaboration, a human who had earned a place among alien leaders. Ethan walked through the palace halls, observing the city below. Life continued, yet the knowledge of what had occurred lingered. The twins had been threatened, but through courage, intelligence, and teamwork, they had prevailed. Humanity, in the form of one determined soldier, had made a difference in an alien world. One evening, Lyra and Celine invited him to join them for a quiet meal in the palace gardens. The city lights shimmered like stars reflecting off the crystal towers. For the first time, Ethan felt a sense of peace and belonging. You've changed the way we see humans, Lyra said. We expected strength, perhaps cunning. But what you've shown goes beyond that. Honor, loyalty, and quick thinking. These are qualities we value highly. Celine added softly, You are part of our family now, Ethan. Not by blood, but by trust and respect. Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth he had not experienced since leaving Earth. He had faced danger, navigated alien customs, and earned the trust of two extraordinary beings. In doing so, he had proved that humans, even far from home, could rise above expectations and make a lasting impact. In the weeks that followed, Ethan continued his duties, but with a new sense of purpose. He trained new security teams, advised the twins on strategic decisions, and assisted in strengthening alliances. He had become more than a protector. He was a bridge between humans and Zyphora, a living example of what courage, intelligence, and loyalty could achieve. As the sun set over the city one evening, Ethan stood beside the twins on a balcony overlooking the palace gardens. The lights of Zyphora shimmered below, peaceful once more. Lyra and Celine stood with him, a silent acknowledgement of their shared victories and the trust that had been forged. Lyra spoke first. You have proven that humans are more than what others assume. You are brave, clever, and honorable. We are grateful for your presence. Celine added, and we know that whatever challenges the future may bring, we can face them together. With you by our side, we are stronger. Ethan felt a quiet pride, not from recognition, but from knowing that he had made a difference. He had faced danger, learned a new world, and earned the trust of those who had once doubted him. Humanity, in the form of one dedicated soldier, had shown its worth. The galaxy beyond Zyphora was vast, full of unknown dangers and opportunities. Ethan Carter knew that wherever he went, whatever challenges awaited, humans could rise to meet them. Courage, loyalty, and ingenuity were not bound to any one planet. They were qualities that could shape the future. And on Zyphora, among crystal towers, alien politics, and extraordinary beings, Ethan had found his place. Not as a visitor, not as an outsider, but as a trusted member of the inner circle, a human who had shown that even in the most alien of worlds, humanity could thrive and shine. The stars above glittered like diamonds in the night sky, reflecting the possibilities of courage, trust, and the extraordinary potential of humans. Ethan Carter, once just a soldier from Earth, now stood as proof that humanity, even far from home, could change worlds.